This video will show the proper methods of applying laminated asphalt shingles. When installing shingles, one must be sure to follow the regulations put forth by the National Building Code. One may also have to consult local building codes and zoning requirements when installing roof coverings. Further requirements for installation are given by manufacturer's application instructions, which are usually printed on the packaging of the shingles themselves. Before installing shingles, one must ensure that the roof deck is in good condition. On new roofs, ensure that all sheathing has been properly secured and that the deck is smooth. When replacing shingles, workers may have to replace portions of the roof deck that have suffered previous water damage or replace flashings that have become damaged. Although not required, the installation of a drip edge is a good idea, as it will protect the roof edge from moisture and support the shingles at the overhang to prevent them from drooping from the sun's heat. Drip edge flashing comes in standard lengths of 10 feet and is installed around the perimeter of the roof. An additional advantage to installing drip edge is that it will hold the metal fascia in place. The installation of underlay may not be required depending on the manufacturer's application instructions. However, underlay will provide an additional plane of protection should water get beneath the shingles. The material requirements and installation criteria for underlay are listed in section 9.26.6 of the National Building Code. Number 15, plain asphalt saturated felt is commonly used as underlay and is available in rolls that are 3 feet wide. Underlay must be installed parallel to the eaves with a headlap of 2 inches for adjoining courses. A 2-inch end lap is also required where the underlay is spliced. Most felt will have white lines indicating proper overlap dimensions. It is important to place the drip edge beneath the eave protection and underlay at the eave. Should water penetrate the shingles, it will not be able to run along the edge of the flashing and become trapped. Along the rake of the roof, the drip edge should be placed over top of the underlay to prevent wind-driven rain from entering between the underlay and the roof deck. Cut a hole in the underlay for roof penetrations and slide the felt over the stack. If the stack flashing is already installed and cannot be removed easily, one may splice the underlay with a proper end lap. Begin drip edge installation at the eave. Apply the drip edge with a snug fit to the roof deck and the fascia. If the drip edge is too loose, it will not hold the fascia in place properly. If it is too tight, it will be difficult to slide the fascia underneath. The drip edge may be fastened using the same roofing nails used to apply the shingles. Overlap adjacent joints in the flashing by 2 inches and fasten on either side of the overlap. This will allow the pieces to move independently during periods of expansion and contraction caused by seasonal changes. Drip edge should be applied around the entire perimeter of the roof. Eave protection is required in most circumstances. Section 9.25 of the National Building Code stipulates where it is required as well as the materials that are to be used for eave protection. The eave protection must extend a minimum of 900 millimeters from the edge of the roof to at least 300 millimeters past the inside face of the exterior wall. The shingles are packaged in bundles with a plastic coating to protect them from the sun prior to installation. The packaging also allows the shingles to stay rigid for better handling. The shingles come with a sealant strip on the face so that the shingles will adhere to each other after they are installed. Inside the packaging, there is also a strip of plastic on the back of the shingle. The purpose of this plastic strip is to prevent them from bonding together inside of the package and need not be removed during application. The amount of shingles in one bundle is determined by the area the shingles will cover when installed. Typically, one bundle will cover 33.3 square feet, so that 3 bundles will make 1 square. A square is the amount of roofing required to cover 100 square feet of roof deck. Since a bundle will cover 33.3 square feet and a sheet of 4x8 OSB or plywood is 32 square feet, one bundle will cover approximately 1 sheet of roof decking. Section 9.27.6.2 of the National Building Code lists the materials that must be used for starter strip. Row roofing or manufactured starter strip may be used, but a more common choice is the shingles themselves. If using 3-tab shingles as starter, the tabs must be cut off. Also make sure that 4 inches get cut off of one end to ensure that the butt joints on the first course of shingles will not be in the same location. Snap chalk lines on the roof for the starter to be installed. The starter should overhang the drip edge by a ½ inch at the eave and the rake. Place the starter with the granular side face up and the factory applied ceiling strip toward the eave. The remaining starter strips will be full length to maintain the 4-inch spacing at the joints. Although not required, some roofers will place starter strip up the rake as well. This is done to seal the edges of the shingles along the rake. A straight, clean edge is also seen when viewed from the ground. The roof is now ready for shingling. Before applying shingles, it is necessary to check the manufacturer's specifications for required nailing. In regular conditions, a 4-nail pattern is typical, with nails driven 1 inch and 13 inches from each end. For high wind or steep slope applications, a 6-nail pattern is typically used, with an extra nail placed 1 inch from both intermediate nails. Always remember to check the manufacturer's specifications, as nail patterns may vary between manufacturers. The first shingle is placed flush with the edge of the starter and nailed in place. The second shingle has 10 inches cut off the end. It is then applied with the correct manufacturer recommended exposure over the first shingle. This process will then be repeated, cutting 20 and 30 inches off the next 2 shingles. At this point, full shingles can then be butted up to the cut shingles and continue across the roof in a step pattern. At roof penetrations such as stacks and roof vents, it is necessary to use proper techniques to prevent the entry of moisture. Apply shingles cutting around the roof opening or penetration. Continue shingling until the bottom of the opening is below the exposure line of the shingle. At this point, the flashing or roof vent is applied. The flashing is sealed to the roof with asphalt cement. The next row of shingles is then installed, being sure to cut neatly around the stack or vent flashing. Once past the penetration or vent, shingling can continue as before. When all sides of the roof have been shingled, it is time to prepare for the ridge cap. Typically 3-tab shingles of the same color are used. One 3-tab shingle makes 3 pieces of ridge cap, providing roughly 15 inches of coverage at the ridge. To cut the ridge cap, you can begin your cuts at the shingle tab cutouts, cutting back at a slight angle across the waist side of the shingle. At the ridge, if the distance from the peak to the exposure line is over half the ridge cap width, another row of shingles is needed. When the distance is less than half of the ridge cap width, we can measure down from the peak half the width of the ridge cap and snap a chalk line across the roof. This line is only needed on one side of the roof. Ridge cap are applied flush to the layout line, starting at one end of the roof. Shingles are applied across the roof with the same exposure as the roof itself. These steps, in conjunction with manufacturer instructions and local and national building codes, should be followed for the successful installation of laminated asphalt shingles.